for me, the interesting thing about Chelsea is not just this season, but I would also like to see what happens over the next like 3 or 5 seasons because they have a new owner after like what 18 years.
They've signed Cucurella for 60 million, most
Yeah,
expensive left back ever, all right,
yeah.
from Brighton. I remember when everyone shat on Arsenal for signing Ben White for 50 million. Please direct your anger and angst and whatever it is, all pile pile up all your negative emotions there now.
The dark horse is Tottenham, man. I just have a feeling Conte as a manager is capable of brilliance.
Graham Potter, he's lost fewer games than Lampard and Gerrard combined in the Prem. They've signed probably the most popular striker in Europe at the moment. They signed Erling Haaland. Runs fast, is tall, can hit a ball, right? What were your thoughts on the pitch being too dry, Malu? What were your thoughts on the pitch being too dry?
Oh man, honestly, now sometimes I feel Klopp reminds me of Wenger because Wenger also used to come up with some crazy ass excuses.
The pitch
Uh,
being dry was not one of them. All right.
Probably Wenger would say something like the pitch was too wet. Okay, but Wenger has also complained about the pitch. He has. Hi guys, and welcome back to All About Sports, the podcast, a podcast for the fans and by the fans. Today, you guys are joined by Aniket
Hi, everyone.
and myself, Shubham. Today's episode, I think it's been a while since we've discussed like just football on the podcast, and there's no better time than to start discussing football. The Premier League season has just kicked off. There's a lot to talk about, but today we'll largely be touching upon the top 6 teams, some of the transfer activities, and what we predict could be their future ahead, their season ahead. So to start off with, I think the best way to start off with is with the teams who've already played. The first game of the season, I believe, was Arsenal versus Crystal Palace, and Arsenal ended up winning 2-0. For Arsenal's transfer window activity and perhaps the season review, I think there's no better person than Aniket. So Gui, to start off with, did you watch the match? And I'm specifically asking, did you watch the match because I just know how hectic your work has been. Did you watch the match? And if you've seen the match, what were your initial thoughts about the team and the signings?
Luckily, I did get to watch it because it was post midnight in India. So, I mean, great timings to manage to get some 2 hours of football viewing in. Coming to what it looked like when in the first look of what is a not a new attack, but basically spearheaded by a new player as opposed to Alex Lacazette. Jesus looked pretty good. Like, I mean, it's maybe you could also say that there are a few arguments that he's looking good only because he's at Arsenal right now. But the point is the team looks more coherent with him because he is also the kind of leggy, likes to put the work in, lots of take-ons in his game, right? Much like Saka and Martinelli. So now you've got a slightly how do I put it, more unified attack as opposed to Lacazette, who's quite different from the other two in the front line.
And I
Coming,
also feel, I was seeing some preseason highlights of Arsenal, and I saw Arsenal versus Crystal Palace, the highlights. I think Jesus is a really good fit. And even in the preseason, he was playing well. So at least to start the season off, I think, yeah, like you rightly said, you all have got a good number 9. And yeah, I saw like his pressing, hunger to get the ball back. I think, yeah, it's far better than Lacazette for sure. And even Aubameyang,
yeah,
definitely.
and again, not to say that the other two weren't trying. It's just that he is more capable. Like the physical
Yeah.
ability is higher, considering age, and maybe even at the same age he has better physical ability, which is okay, right? Some players are better than the others, which is not.
Do you think the reason perhaps he might excel is the fact that he's coming from a Pep Guardiola team, which is definitely trained and structured in a way to press, counter press, win the ball back, keep possession. And he's coming to a Arteta team who I wouldn't say has the same ideologies, but similar ideologies.
Yeah, I
So do you
mean,
think that will help?
it was Arteta's first, like one of his first managerial gigs, right? So I think he will have a lot of heavy influence from that City side, which does help in integrating signings such as Zinchenko and Jesus, who have played in similar-ish systems where ideas which are at least similar have been propagated. Again, Zinchenko looked great. He, like, this is the thing about, this is the why the Premier League tax exists, so to speak. When you're buying from a Premier League team and you get the services of a player from a competing Premier League team, or rather in this case Premier League team which was constantly better than Arsenal over the last 3 or 4 years. Uh, these players they know how to play the opposition because they are not phased at all, right? They've been playing the
Yeah,
same opposition for 4 or 5 years now, as opposed to someone who comes in from a Portuguese side or from a French side, who could be equally capable players, but it takes time to settle in. We saw that with someone like a Nuno Tavares. Okay, again, not to say that he's on the same level as Premier League tested players, but it makes an impact when you're playing at a different level as opposed to the Premier League. So that was really
yeah.
helpful when I mean that was very evident in the way Arsenal played. Like the new signing seemed very much at home. And considering William Saliba also happened to play the game, right? And Ben White played at right back as opposed to his usual in the centre back pairing. Also looked pretty confident, which is a good sign. He played his first Premier League game, won a Man of the Match award also. Good signs considering there was so much talk about him not being happy about his current situation at Arsenal. Uh, Ramsdale looked great again, made a rather,
His saves
basically
are
a
good,
split,
man.
yeah,
Pretty
split
good
second
saves.
saves are they just seem to be his thing.
Yeah.
So I was super happy about that. Again, now I hope with some time still remaining in the transfer window, I don't have room to make this excuse again, but not an excuse. What could become a possible excuse? Just Malu is going to keep this in mind. I know when when we get to a mid-season review, is that we don't seem to be super deep when it comes to our center mid pairing. Our center mid pairing has stayed the same from last year, which is Xhaka and Pate, and we don't seem to be really having super strong alternates to these two guys,
And
which
we've
could
noticed,
become
right?
a
I
problem.
think it was last season also when Partey had a thigh injury and he was
Correct,
out, and your
correct.
midfield suffered. But
Yeah,
when that guy plays, he
yep,
bosses it, man. He
exactly.
is
Which
a
is
he is a bully, I feel, in the midfield. He's that good.
he is actually that good, right? Which is why everyone was super excited about him being signed. But I think depth is one thing which we will lack, especially because he will also have to travel for the AFCON. Plus, he plays those games right in the middle of a Premier League season, which could impact him physically also. Plus, Xhaka's
World Cup?
record this season, yes, is going to
Yeah.
be rough for I think all Premier League teams, where they have to play the Prem rather the World Cup in the middle of the Prem season. And Jaka's not had a great time with the refs, so I think we are always 5 yellow cards away or a split second red card away from being slightly exposed in the midfield. But I think all in all, it was a positive performance because we look much more fresh as compared to what I've been viewing over the last season. Maybe because towards the fag end of the season there were a lot more injuries which got accumulated. But yeah, all in all, this was a plus sign when it comes to Arsenal. Coming to you, what did you think maybe about Arsenal? Or do you have out of the games which have already been done since we are recording on a Sunday? There are still
Hmm.
a few games to go, right? One of them being City's game, but we did
Yeah.
have Liverpool play,
Yeah.
right? What were your thoughts on the pitch being too dry, Malu? What were your thoughts on the pitch being too dry?
Oh man, honestly, now sometimes I feel Klopp reminds me of Wenger because Wenger also used to come up with some crazy ass excuses. But yeah,
The pitch
uh,
being dry was not one of them. All right.
I agree. Probably Wenger would say something like the pitch was too wet. Okay, but Wenger has also complained about the pitch. He has. So, but no. Seriously talking, I think Liverpool. I don't know, man. I just think that these guys will kick into gear at some point or the other. It could just be perhaps that it's just a fresh start to the season. People are still like getting into the groove of things. I think they will definitely kick into gear. I'm really keen to see how Nunes performs. I want to see, because Liverpool has spent 100 million. Is he perhaps Liverpool's most expensive signing? Have they ever bought anyone more than 100 million? I don't think so, at least not in my memory. So I might be mistaken, but yeah, I'm very keen to see how he does. But also another thing with Liverpool is I don't think these guys have really gone out and signed too many players. They, for the last few seasons, have been repeating the same squad over and over again. So I just want to see if these guys will be able to cope up with, I don't know, just having the same intensity. And given the fact that the World Cup is also there this year, it'll be very interesting to see how Liverpool manage. But yeah, I think these guys just need a little bit more fitness. They look good, they look strong, and they will definitely kick in.
Most certainly so. I mean, they've signed, well, probably a super expensive dude who's not really making the headlines for the right reasons at the moment. Uh, but it's okay, right? Like, I think every signing deserves some time to settle in, especially when you're moving into a side which is constantly competing for championships, which is gelled over so many years under the same
Yeah,
manager, which has an identity, to be honest. Much unlike Luis Diaz, who was like an immediate walk.
impact. Yeah,
Yeah, because he basically does the same role, right? uh, the and he plays exactly like how Klopp would want his left winger to play. Like, it just looks like it was a fit for him, and I can't be expected of every player. And I don't think they were super out of whack either. It's just, I think they just got showed up by a very charged Fulham. I think the
yeah.
game also being at Craven Cottage was, I mean, slightly. If you, I mean, if they had the season opener at home, it probably would not have had a 2-2 showing, right?
Definitely. But
Yes,
yeah, like I think you would also agree with me. I don't think there's too much to read into this because Liverpool will kick into
correct,
gear
correct.
and they will go into one of those crazy 10-15 matches winning streak and shit like that. So yeah,
And they're capable. Like, the team hasn't changed much, right? There's been one notable exit, but barring that, there hasn't been like so much of a change, which is like, it's not like, say, an Allison and Salah have both moved out, or
yeah.
say a Trent and Van Dijk have both moved out. It's not something which is that impactful. But yes, losing Mane, big deal. I would not say otherwise. Now, coming to what you believe about the only other top six side, there are two others. I think Chelsea had a very average showing, so I don't really want to talk about them first. But Spurs, they've done well. They kind of hammered Southampton 4-1, right?
Dude, I was
Uh,
seeing the highlights and again, Son looks so good. He looks scary, man. That guy honestly is too good.
I
Too good.
tried my level best, Malu. Like, I have never, at no point have I tried to put uh, a Spurs player in my FPL team, and I was desperate like on Friday evening to find a way to put Son, Haaland, and Salah in the same team. But they just took up like 40 million, and whatever, 30 million, and I'm like, no way, bro. 35, 36 million not happening. There's no way I can fit all of these guys. But I mean,
So
and
did you
if you
keep Son then?
no, I didn't. I did not. I went with Salah and Haaland. I mean, one can only try. Right? I did my best, but uh, there was no way to get even him in. Pardon me. Spurs also have, I think, a very decent run of fixtures. If I just open up their list of fixtures, give me a minute. It's not looking too bad for them. It's Let me give you the rundown on their fixtures. They have played, of course, these guys Southampton. All right, in game week 2, they are playing Chelsea, which is I think the only one which is a bad one. After which they move to Wolves, who don't seem to have Jimenez and some of their other notable names either. The week after, they're playing newly promoted Nottingham Forest. So this is a good start for them in terms of fixtures.
Yeah.
They have a London derby with against West Ham away, which I think could prove challenging. But the way that team has been set up, and they ended the season well, right? They ended last season also pretty decently. They started off with a bang with a 4-1 against Southampton.
The thing with Tottenham, which I think is absolutely fantastic, is their manager. I think
Mhm.
Conte is like obviously he is world class. He managed to get them in the Champions League, and I think that Harry Kane and Son pairing is strong. Conte makes them play some exciting, fun, attacking football. So I feel Tottenham would not be in the top six discussion. I feel this year they would probably be in the top four discussion because they can certainly make it. I think.
They most certainly can. But I mean, last season, if you remember, the other London club,
Yeah.
all right, Chelsea, was also, I mean, there were big things being spoken of them in terms of them probably giving a fight for the top two also, right?
Yeah.
But then that the season The season flat, the hopes flattened very quickly. All right. What do you think about this season? I think there was a there was a survey somewhere I saw on Twitter which says what is the level of fan optimism, and Chelsea was bang at the bottom, right? Because they've not had any notable signings. They've signed Cucurella for 60 million, most expensive
Yeah,
left back ever, all right,
yeah.
from Brighton. I remember when everyone shat on Arsenal for signing Ben White for 50 million. Please direct your anger and angst and whatever it is, all pile pile up all your negative emotions there now. Okay, they signed a left back for 60 million, and they have children, and they have Marcus Alonso. All right,
Yeah.
Lukaku's made a, a run for the hills back to Italy. All right, now they have Havertz and Werner on top.
They
Nine.
signed Sterling. They signed
They
Sterling.
okay. Sorry, I forgot they did sign Sterling, who is again Premier League proven, but in a squad which is not as this squad again I feel does not have the identity of like a Pep Guardiola side or a Klopp side, right? They have some rough identity which they managed to
Yeah.
build, but again, Sterling is not. Essentially, I don't see them playing a system which can be a bit of a wonky thing for someone like Sterling. Hazard
You know,
was
for
he
me, no,
Hazard
in
didn't
terms of
need
when
a system. Hazard didn't need a system, but I
he was
still
magic,
exactly. I don't think Sterling is at that level where he can just turn a game on its head.
I feel other than Hazard, if any player in the Premier League is at that level who can turn a game in terms of wing options, inverted forwards, is Salah. Salah. I think he's really, really good. Sterling, I've always had this feeling Sterling is hit and miss. There are
Mhm.
times when yeah, I think the problem with him is consistency. There are times when he can really be a world beater, but there are a lot of times when he's super frustrating, will screw up the most simple one-on-ones. He's actually horrible when it comes to one-on-ones. I feel like a lot of defenders and goalkeepers can easily take him. And for me, the interesting thing about Chelsea is not just this season, but I'd also like to see what happens over the next like 3 or 5 seasons because they have a new owner after like what 18 years. And let's not forget, Chelsea became this driving force was because of Ibrahimovic and the amount
Correct.
of money he just poured into the club. Now they have new owners, they'll have a new identity, a new way of operating the transfer market. So it'll be very interesting to see how Chelsea builds. But for this season, I would personally feel, given their manager and given that they still have a pretty good squad, I would think that they would be in the top four battle.
I do think so as well because if I look at the fixture list, right, they have Tottenham in game week 2, all right, after which they have Liverpool in game week 8, then they have City in game week 19, and game week 21 they have Liverpool again.
Oh wow.
Game week 25 they have Tottenham, 27 they have Leicester, United in game week 32, Arsenal in game week 34, City in game week 37. I've missed one Arsenal fixture. I don't know where it is. It's in game week 15. Also, they have super evenly spaced out games against the top six, is what I was trying to
Yeah.
say. Because this is the best calendar I have seen for any side. They have like, barring two occasions where they are playing two of the top six sides in quick succession. By quick succession, I mean with a game in between both of those. They do not have back to back games against the top six sides. I mean, they can actually be clear of a lot of the sides if they just manage to win all of the balance games, right? You win the balance games, and then there is enough time in hand to focus on the big ones. So I really think Chelsea should be in the running because they have the best fixture list even as compared to City. City has they have some of their games bunched up together where they play Liverpool, Arsenal back to back with a game week in hand. Then they play Leicester, then they play Chelsea and United back to back, which is significantly worse off, right? You're more likely to lose
Of
those
course.
games. Uh, so if you ask me, they have a bit better fixture list than City, who generally had like a super convenient fixture list when it comes to managing their cup games, their Champions League games, their FA Cup games, League Cup games, and the Premier League. Always kind of targeted and said that these guys have a set up fixture list, set up referees, and all of that shit. But Chelsea have it this season, and I don't see like the squad I thought was good enough last season. Also, I don't think they've had some significant debt, exits, barring of course Lukaku, who wasn't doing
who
much
was
to
pretty
begin with.
insignificant to begin with. Yeah.
Exactly right. Who wasn't doing so much to begin with. So I think the squad can still compete and at a very decent level. Now come. So we've covered Arsenal, Liverpool,
Tottenham,
Spurs,
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Now let's go to Manchester.
Let's do it. What now? The biggest talking point about United in the transfer window was the De Jong saga and Ronaldo trying to sell himself out places. I have
Oh man.
I was like, what is happening? Why is he making a
Yeah, dude.
spectacle like this? Like he was genuinely like it almost
In
seemed
fact,
like
right now I have the lineup that's come out. I don't know if if it's
yeah,
getting blurred or whatever.
phones kind of
Yeah,
getting blurred. Yeah,
yeah. And Ronaldo's not in the starting 11, but I think that was kind of expected, also given the fact that he missed the
yeah,
entire preseason
yeah.
tour. But in terms of United, I think the transfer market has been 50-50. Lukewarm is the best thing I can say. We have signed Malacia. The preseason games that I saw him play, he seems like a Ten Hag player, and he's definitely like a lot more active than Luke Shaw, or I can't remember his name, man. We
Alex
had a
Teh,
Brazilian left back. Yes, yes, yes. He's gone on loan. So I think in terms of Luke Shaw and Malacia, I think we've got a good left back who could probably be an upgrade to Luke Shaw. Ericsson, no doubt, Premier League proven, is a very good player in his right, and he and Bruno hopefully can unlock defenses and some of the problems we faced in the previous seasons where teams would sit back.
mhm,
But obviously, our strikers is a problem. We are banking on Ronaldo, who seems like he wants to leave the club ASAP. Martial has always been hit and miss. De Jong, God knows if we are going to sign him, not going to sign him. We signed a centre back who, again, little bit that I've seen, he looks good, but the jury is out there, right? They still have to play, they still have to perform. All of them, other than Ericsson, have never played in the Premier League. So to match up with the intensity, to see how they perform, there's a lot to be said. So in terms of United, I'm very unsure about the season. Going to the season, I don't feel confident. I feel unsure. But one thing that I feel good about is we have a manager who has an identity and will make us play a certain way, which has perhaps not been there since, I don't know, since Mourinho, maybe.
as long as you'll give him the same amount of time you'll give Ole. I mean, like let's be honest, that guy was around for a while even after the team
Three
wasn't doing
years.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I think if you afford someone like Ten Hag that kind of time, United does have the resources to help him build a team, right? So I don't. Maybe this might not be United season. Like the first season of a rebuild, quote unquote, isn't really easy, right? You can ask that to Klopp. You can ask that to the Arsenal type squads which are still trying. You can ask that to all the former United squads which are still trying for a while. But uh, I again, at least now, I for the first time feel like the manager in place is someone who you would want to offer that kind of longevity to, as opposed to the makeshift. Like for me, I always thought always going to get the boat at the end of every season he was at. Like, so whichever season he started off, I was like, he's going this season. The next season, okay, Max he'll go in this season. He's hung around for another one, and I'm like, what are they doing? But anyway, that's the thing of the past. I don't see so much optimism about Man United this time, which is kind of shocking because United fans can trump up anything. I that is one thing
Eternal optimists.
I that is one thing I will give to them. They can trump up nothing. they can they can do it and they can convince the world that you should be optimistic about it. Okay, fine,
Yes.
fair enough. I know the first time I'm seeing United fans not really being in the mix of conversations, right? Like
I think with us also now we've got our hand burnt a few times
yeah.
because every season at the start of the season we've been super optimistic, and the seasons have ended, like at least last season was atrocious, right? It was our worst point tally in Premier League history. It can't get worse than that. So for us, yeah, we have to be patient with Ten Hag, give him time, support him in the transfer market, and from the press conferences and the preseason I've seen, this guy looks like someone you can't mess with. He knows how to discipline the team, maintain the egos, and hopefully make them play well. So today, the kickoff is in like what I think 40 minutes. So we'll see how United perform in their first game.
Coming to the blue rivals of Man United, they've let go of Jesus, they've let go of Zinchenko. Have they let go of anyone else?
Sterling.
Sterling. Sorry, my bad. I seem to be missing Sterling from every conversation. And they've
And
signed
apparently, they might also let go of Bernardo Silva, who's in conversation with Barca, but then that depends on De Jong moving. So maybe not.
Barca, poor souls, they can't register their new signings who already signed Lewandowski and all. They're not being able to register what they signed new people. They're hosting
I just
weddings
I just
at the
I, I
stadium.
I just sometimes feel, given how taxing your work is, if you had to audit the Barca account, what would happen to you?
I, no, no, there is an option given to us. We can cite reasons to not audit also. That
Okay.
that is the one we will be opting for. So they've signed probably the most popular striker in Europe at the moment. They signed Erling Haaland, all right, who's already had like one or two blazes past the crossbar, all right. But of course, we know the inherent talent or just the make of the human being is crazy. Okay, runs fast, is tall, can hit a ball, right? Eh,
Strong, very strong.
what I mean is the perfect make, especially for someone to play in the Premier League. Coming to them not really upgrading the squad as they do every season. What are your thoughts? Do you think they will have? I mean, they will always have to compete with Liverpool, right? But do you think this season there will be other teams also in the mix, considering they haven't really upgraded the squad like they always do?
So I feel with City, if you think about the transfer markets, maybe for the last two, 3 seasons, Pep Guardiola has been crying out for an out and out number nine. I think last year they were desperately trying for Harry Kane. They even had like a massive bid submitted, but
Correct.
Tottenham never accepted. Now these are rumors, or it's a fact that they almost got Ronaldo. So it was quite clear that Pep was desperate for an out and out number nine. And now they've signed one of the hottest prospects in Europe. So he's got his finally dream number nine. And in terms of, I agree with you, they've not made too many changes to their squad, but again, like a Man City squad compared to a Liverpool squad, they are such well-oiled and trained machines that they don't need too many changes. They have very good squad depth in squad. They have people who you can count upon and will still come and deliver. They can grind out results, and they've got a nice number nine. I think more than the Premier League, I think now what Pep wants is the Champions League. That's that one trophy that he's desperate for. So I think Premier League season definitely is going to be Man City, Liverpool, and if there's any other team that can compete with them, I just have a feeling. I don't know why. I probably sound stupid on this, but I just have a feeling that one team that could be like the dark horse is Tottenham, man. I just have a feeling Conte as a manager is capable of brilliance. Like if we get top four, I'll be super super happy. But yeah, I don't have too much hopes. Arsenal, I think, I if Arsenal don't get top four this season also, I think that should be a big disappointment.
It
Big
will be.
disappointment.
It will be most certainly
Yeah.
so, because we are essentially competing with two other teams, right? There are only two
Chelsea
spots.
and
Just
Tottenham.
just imagine there are two other spots. Both the other
Yeah.
two London clubs are competing, which is again, it's not an impossible task to beat those two, right? We've beaten them on several occasions in the last two seasons. So if those are the only games now, what Arsenal really need to do is move themselves out of that bracket of top six teams which generally lose to bottom tier sides. They need to avoid losing to the Nottingham Forest, Brentfords, and
Yeah.
having draws with Fulham and Burnleys and all these teams. And I think it's manageable. The task is not that bad. So now we've discussed the top six, right? Let's come to the other end of the table. Last season, Everton was Everton were in a relegation spot for a while, right?
Definitely.
Managed to avoid it. I don't know how, because they were genuinely terrible. At the way they were going was nothing good going for that squad. Who do you think this season is going to get relegated? Coming to the teams which are close to the relegation side of the table every year. But I mean, the three obvious picks are the newly promoted sides, which Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, and
Fulham.
Fulham. Yeah, right. Also, obvious shout outs are to the teams which were promoted for in the previous season, like Brentford, right? I mean, it's very difficult to I mean, sometimes you escape the first season, but to keep that fire alive for multiple seasons is very difficult. I think we've noticed that
Yeah,
with teams like Fulham and Norwich, which have moved from the championship to the Prem and on
yeah.
in the reverse order. I think for the last two seasons back to back. So Malu, what are your thoughts? Do you think that the three which have been promoted this season are going to survive and make it to the Prem next season?
I think the little bit that I saw Fulham Liverpool, Fulham
Hmm.
looked decent, yeah. So if at home against almost like a champion team like Liverpool to get a draw, that's a great result. If they can maintain that resilience, and whatever I saw, they look good. So I wouldn't think like Fulham should be in the relegation zone, but Nottingham Forest I think could be struggling. I don't think Everton is going to struggle this season. I would be shocked if they struggle. I had a feeling that Leeds might struggle, but they changed their manager at the back end of last season. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform. Which are the other teams? Which other teams that generally
They've
struggle?
lost. So Leeds have lost Calvin Phillips. They've lost Rafinha also.
Oh
So
yes,
so
yes,
they
yeah, yeah.
they
Then
are.
maybe Leeds would be in the discussion.
I
Uh,
would put them heavily in the discussion unless of course they have something. Once again they do the first half of the season which they brought, like the super high intensity leads,
yeah.
which we had on the first half but not in the second half, sadly, because they were enjoyable to watch if you ask me. But who else is in the conversation? uh, I just read a very interesting stat. Graham Potter has lost 10 games. No, he's lost fewer games than Lampard and Gerrard combined in the Prem. So,
Okay.
so I was heading towards Aston Villa. Okay, but Aston Villa have very decent squad if you ask me. Always, I always have a few players from in my FPL squad from Aston Villa because they have a knack for scoring. They have Coutinho. They have the usual Watkins and all of those Ings. They have a pretty decent, I think, set lineup of people who can manage in the Prem. So I'm not edging towards those guys. All right. Uh, Again, Palace also no. Southampton no. My obvious picks were basically Nottingham Forest, Leeds, and Fulham.
Oh, you think
So
Fulham? Okay.
yeah, I always think Fulham. I always think Fulham because they've had a decent squad for. They've had this Mitrovic wala squad has been there for a while, right? He's
Yeah.
been poor soul has been there for what 3 seasons, I think, at least 3 seasons he must have done, and yet like playing in the Prem, I think this is a different ball game. Quite difficult. Again, I'm picking Nottingham Forest out of statistics. Like maybe this is just statistics. Very difficult to survive a season in the Prem when you're newly promoted, unless there are like you massive shout outs for like a relegation. Like some if in one season there is Fulham, Norwich, like the Newcastle squad which got relegated, and all of those squads are there no in one year, then maybe I will say like a Nottingham Forest can survive because there are a lot of teams for them to beat also, right?
Yeah.
And Brentford don't seem like the kind who will go down. Brentford seem to do well in the previous season, and by well I don't mean they didn't seem to be doing well out of chance. They seem to be doing well because they
No, they were
have,
actually playing well. Yeah.
yeah, they seem like a well-oiled team who were not coasting, struggling, yes, but not for reasons such as like they don't have 11 players who can be fielded or should be fielded in the Premier League,
Like
right?
for example, even Brighton after they got promoted, they've been doing pretty well. Yeah. They are a solid
Absolutely.
team. Like and they are capable of upsets also. They're that good a
Mo-
team.
Most certainly so. I mean, it's an odd collection of players if you ask me, but they've managed to have a 50 million pound player, a 60 million pound player now. They've, I think, even the players who seem to be super set at Brighton are decent, right? So
Yeah.
uh, they've been producing good players and they've had a good consistent set, which has been keeping them in the Prem, if you ask me.
So now that we're done with discussing the top six and the relegation battle in general, and we've picked some of the teams who we think might get relegated, let's just quickly discuss our top six. So, Gui, what would be your top four, and then the fifth and sixth team?
Only a crazy man would not pick City and Liverpool at the top.
No,
Okay.
no, no, not City and Liverpool. Say number one, number two, like
Ah, yeah,
properly
okay, yeah,
define
yeah.
it.
Number one City, number two Liverpool, three Arsenal, fourth Tottenham, fifth Chelsea, and sixth United. And City and Liverpool again, even though they don't have that, even if they don't have that vibe in game week one, I am picking them in those two slots only. All right.
Definitely. I
Who's
think for me also, it's going to be City or Liverpool. And I really, really hope City and Liverpool is again like a very intense battle all the way till the end. I think that makes it exciting because sadly the other teams are so far off that at least it should be a two-horse race out here. My third pick would actually be Tottenham. I think Tottenham are, like I said, the dark horse. My fourth pick would be Chelsea, uh, Arsenal, Man United. So yeah, sadly, I think United are going to finish sixth, but I have a feeling Arsenal are again going to miss out on top four. So yeah, that's my pick.
said it like a United fan, Malu. Said it like a true United fan. Yeah,
If I would have said it like a true United fan, I would have put United in the top four. Okay, I'm being very realistic this season. I think if we get top four, it's a miracle. Hopefully sixth, huh? Hopefully sixth. I don't want us playing in the Conference League, man.
Leicester and West Ham can always challenge, but again, they need to have the will to see it through. It's always been one of those, trademark United or Arsenal things to do, to see it till the end of the season and
Till the end, yeah,
somehow just put one foot into those European competition spots. So
absolutely. But
let's
yeah,
see.
I guess that's our Premier League season analysis, review, prediction. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let us know in the comments below if you guys agree with our top four prediction, with our top six prediction, with our relegation team prediction. And let us know your thoughts as to who you think will finish in the different places. And yeah, we shall see you all again next week. Take care.
Bye bye.
If you like this episode, make sure to leave a like and share it with anyone else who might be interested. You can also subscribe on any social media platform that you prefer, and all our links are in the bio. We also have a website with all our episodes as well as blogs and a whole lot of other sports content, so make sure to check that out as well.